Akash, you see my screen? Hello?
Hi Sneha. Yes, we can see your screen. We can hear you well.
Okay, perfect.
We can get started. Yep.
Okay, hi all, welcome. Thank you for joining. I'm Sneha here. I'm going to be talking about my journey from being a hardcore developer to a low code lover. A little bit about myself. I'm an aspiring CTA in the process of journey to CTA. I'm currently working with IBM as an application architect. In the process of studying for CTA, I kind of discovered that the more I learn, the more is left to learn. It's not so, it's actually exciting in a kind of a way, thinking that there's always something new to learn every day and it makes me better each and every day. So how I entered into the Salesforce, let's take it. I'm trying to take you back in time. So I was entered into Salesforce like an accidental discovery. My manager was shuffling multiple members for the project, and he came in, and we were part of the cloud COE, and he shuffled each of the team member into one project, one cloud platform, be it AWS, Azure, or Salesforce. And I was put into Salesforce, and I've never looked back since. This happened almost more than a decade ago. So I started my journey in Salesforce more than a decade. So back then, when I started, there were only two clouds, sales and service, nothing else. So also two main certifications, developer and advanced developer. So uh, and then the motto was always no software. So we saw this logo around everywhere. We never had trailheads or anything. So our learning was mostly on the job or using cookbooks. They were called cookbooks. They were simple workbooks which would tell you step by step process of how to get things done. So with this, the initial mindset was always code, code, and code, nothing else. So how we were, our mindset was set also in a way saying that okay, you know Java, you can learn Salesforce. Every single feature on Java was compared with Salesforce, or every single feature of Salesforce was compared with Java, and there were differences of the nitty gritty items that were set. It was always like if you knew Java or any other object oriented language, you could lean on that knowledge and learn Salesforce. So, given that, one thing I really enjoyed doing was UI and object model. It was pretty much easy and click, point and click. So, maybe that was when I started liking point and click development. So, we could create page layouts and object model design pretty much almost instantly. So also we had limited options. There was no, apart from Workflow, Visual Force, and Apex, we had no more development options for us. So we were always like, okay, you're given a requirement. The first thing you would do is develop, and what do you use? Apex. That was the kind of mindset that I was brought into the Salesforce world. Uh, with this mindset, I made a lot of mistakes, and I learned a lot as well. So I was a junior developer maybe in 2012, 2013, and I was given a requirement, and I happily wrote a long trigger. Did everything well. I completed the test class also, thinking I would get an appreciation from my lead, and he came and said, "We could have done this with a formula field." And then that kind of hit me hard, saying that why didn't I think of it that way? Even after that, I didn't quite move away from code so quickly enough. It was code was like my first love, and I always thought I'm a developer. If I don't code, what am I doing? So that was the kind of mindset I had, and I always thought there was no perfect marriage of automation and code. So to prove it right, there was one legacy piece of trigger that we had, which which was written way back in 2007, 2008. And during translation, we had lost transition, all the documents were lost. So we were pretty much scared to touch that piece of code or refactor or do anything with that. So, given that scenario, we had to extend that piece of code and make sure we build in a new functionality as an enhancement. So, our first choice was obviously Process Builder back then. And then we wrote a Process Builder and we started to test it out, and it started failing. So, I was pretty much, in a way, kind of thinking, see, I told you so. There was no marriage of perfect automation and code. They don't go along together. And then after a couple of months, my trigger broke. I removed the process builder, wrote a small piece of code, and made the functionality work. After we went live, we realized that the trigger broke, and there were practically exceptions and exceptions everywhere. Then, when I realized the trigger was written badly, it was not the process builder issue or both of them working together. So, to give you an idea of how badly the trigger was written, we faced a 101 query exception, the classic 101 SOQL exception. We took it as a pet project and started fixing the code. And after we were done, we reduced it from 101 to 34. So that was how badly it was written. And I was like, okay, maybe they always were meant to be together. It was just that I didn't see it that way. While I was learning all this, Salesforce went from being a CRM to a 360-degree customer product. So Salesforce added a lot of products to its stack. Salesforce did acquire 69 companies, it seems. So they added Lightning, Commerce, Tableau, Heroku, MuleSoft, you name it, the stack was almost complete. But my journey was very much limited to sales, service experience, a little bit of Heroku and Lightning. So with this, I started feeling a lot of FOMO, saying, "Oh my God, I'm missing out a lot. I don't get to work on all the cool things that Salesforce is releasing." Um, and I didn't want to be left behind. I was accidentally put here, and I somehow felt that if I don't learn all these stuff and I'm not doing justice to my role, and I'll also not be able to present solutions better. I always had an aspiration of being a CTA. So if I don't learn these elements, I will never get to present a perfect solution. So with this, I decided to bridge the gap, did some self analysis, and started bridging the gap. And there was always community to help me, a wonderful Salesforce community. So I started attending Bangalore developer group events, and the developer community happens to be one of the largest communities as well, next to San Francisco, I think. So it was amazing to meet people in the same community, but apart from your project, and get to hear from their experience. That kind of created a safe space for me to ask questions that I couldn't ask or didn't know whom to ask in my workplace. So it helped me. They guided me a lot, saying, "Okay, this is how you proceed." And though Salesforce is kind of expanding so much, where should I focus on? Those were the elements and those were the questions I got from the Salesforce developer group. I also reached out to the Trailblazer community. And then whatever I wanted to learn, I always had Apex Hours to help me. So I guess you would have also felt the same. And Apex Hours was there if I wanted to learn Pardot or if I wanted to learn something new about MuleSoft, anything there, Apex Hours helped me a lot. And there was Twitter community. I did message a couple of CTAs on Twitter community, and they happily respond to you, which is it's kind of amazing how well they want to help other people. And along with this, I also started doing my Salesforce certifications. I'm 13x certified right now, and I took time between certifications and made sure I started doing my designer certs, and it was a wonderful learning experience. With all this learning and a lot of difficulty, I developed a new mindset. The new mindset involved, okay, you didn't have to write code every time there was a problem that was given to you. So I would always go ahead and choose the easiest tool that was present to solve the problem. That was the mindset. I start from formula field. Only when nothing works, uh, choose the code. Also, while studying for a lot of designer certs, I learned how important it is to design your solution well so that it works for the longer run and works efficiently. And this is the hardest lesson. The best code is no code at all. As they say, every line of code that you bring into the your application has to be learned, understood, maintained, and then refactored if required, and then brought in uh, new if you bring in a new feature, then that has to be improved, developed, and everything, so which is extremely difficult to do. If given a choice, you should always go low code. By this, I was managing a team as well, so it was difficult for me to get some hands-on experience, but I wanted to keep up the technical path and always wanted to stay technical. That's why I used to always try to get at least one user story and get hands-on so that I was closer to development as well as low code. Then I finally fell in love with low code. This was it helps faster app development during pre-COVID and COVID. We had a lot of changes in how the application had to go through, and there were a lot of business changes that were supposed to be brought in. And nothing helped us faster than building it using flows and process builders and stuff like that. So it was also easier to manage revolving teams. I had a team of about 10 plus developers working with me. So every time we added a low code element, it used to be easy to manage. I would tell the person, okay, look at this flow, this is how it works, and then you can start building on top of this, or you have to debug this, or something like that. It was also easier to bring in new folks. I had graduate hires, new fresh from college, and they would feel very productive when one of their piece of code or something goes to production and they had built it on. So it improved the team morale. It also helped me in a lot of team management. So with the new flow debugger, it's easy to debug. You don't have to pour over the textual debug logs, which makes life a whole lot easier. With all these things, and considering low code as the first option for your development, it always kept technical debt at bay. And easier maintenance was the byproduct of maintaining all these elements first. So now I always remember to go with the flow. And low code is everywhere. It's kind of omnipresent. So I've done deployments using uh, chain set, manual deployments, and everything. I started my deployment journey in 2013, when long back. So I was doing deployments back then for minor projects. But yeah, it was extremely painful to understand where your piece of code lies when in the sandbox strategy, where which piece moved where. So it was difficult to maintain. With deployments being also made low code and point and click, I've used multiple CI/CD tools, Copado being one of them. So Copado tells me exactly where my piece of code lies, and I don't have to worry saying where did it go. And with just a point and a click, I can move code from one org to another, which is extremely easy and fascinating. I used to dread the days of deployment, seeing, oh my God, I have to prep all these elements, package.xml. What if one component gets missed? What if I miss the dependency? And the repeated errors of keeping on adding components to um, my package.xml. Everything was very messy. So point and click tools of deployment also makes life whole lot easier for developers and application maintenance admins as well. So automation testing is also low code. I had a team of testers also report to me. So they used to struggle with the way we used to make changes to the code, and they would not be able to maintain. They would have to keep upgrading their scripts, automation test scripts as well. So with automation testing also coming on low code area, it makes a life whole lot easier for them as well. So low I would like to say low code and pro code are two different schools of thought. When I started, it was mostly code or pro code. That was about 10, 12 years ago. And then we slowly graduated and moved towards low code. It was because the COVID changed the business, and the business is disrupt. The clients need faster development, faster movement, faster application development, and new changes to be brought into the system at lightning speed. With all that, if you are going pro code, it becomes difficult to maintain, build, and manage the applications. With low code, it's so much easier to build something, even if after 6 months down the line, if that has to go down, has to be removed and brought a new application, new functionality which is totally different. Even that can be done easily. But at any point of time, I feel life moves in a circle, and we might as well move from low code back to pro code. That could happen, but until then, I would like to say is saying both low code and pro code are here to stay, and they are perfectly compatible and work together very well. So that's it from me. Thank you very much. I would like to hear from you if you have any feedback about my session, or if you'd like to connect with me. Please reach out to me on Twitter, LinkedIn, or my email. And thank you very much.